The world for April Windsor has shrunk to the suffocating confines of her bedroom. The familiar pink wallpaper, once a cheerful backdrop to her childhood, now feels like a cage, its floral patterns mocking her with a vibrancy she can no longer feel. The true prison, however, is the small, glowing screen of her phone. It lies on her duvet, a malevolent black mirror that holds the power to summon her tormentor, Celia, with a single ping. Each notification, each buzz, sends a jolt of ice-cold fear through her veins. The pressure from Celia has become a physical weight, a crushing force on her chest that makes it hard to breathe, hard to think, hard to be the girl her father, Marlon, still sees. He sees her, but he doesn't see. Not really. He sees a quiet daughter, a teenager lost in moods he attributes to growing pains. He bustles around her with his characteristic, gentle clumsiness, offering her favorite snacks, suggesting they watch a film, his love for her a palpable, warming presence that only makes her feel guiltier. How can she carry this darkness into his light? How can she shatter his world with the ugliness of her own? The pressure, however, is becoming unbearable. Celia's demands are escalating, her messages growing more insistent, more threatening. She wants more, always more, and April's well of excuses has run dry. The thought of disappointing her, of facing her wrath, is a terrifying prospect. But a new, even more terrifying thought has begun to take root, the thought of what will happen if she doesn't tell someone. This morning, the weight is heavier than ever. Marlon finds her staring blankly at her uneaten toast, her eyes wide and haunted. "Everything all right, my April blossom?" he asks, his voice soft with concern. The question is a key, threatening to unlock the floodgates she has fought so hard to keep closed. The words clog her throat, a painful, unspeakable lump. She wants to scream, to confess, to throw herself into his arms and let him make the world right again, the way he did when she was little and her monsters were confined to the space beneath her bed. This is the precipice. The special episode of her life is about to begin, a one-act play in the theater of the Dingle kitchen. The audience is an audience of one, her father, whose heart she is about to break. "Dad?" she begins, her voice a fragile whisper, barely audible over the hum of the refrigerator. He turns, his smile gentle, encouraging. "What is it, love?" She takes a breath, the air shuddering in her lungs. The pressure from Celia, the fear, the shame, it all swirls into a vortex of desperation. She opens her mouth, the truth poised on her tongue like a bitter pill. Will she have the courage to swallow it and speak? Or will the monster on her phone pull her back into the shadows just as she reaches for the light? The silence stretches, thick with unspoken horrors, and in that moment, the fate of April's innocence hangs precariously in the balance. For Charity Dingle, tension has become her constant companion, a phantom twin that shadows her every move. It's in the frantic, unsteady rhythm of her heart, it's in the metallic taste of fear in her mouth. The upcoming scan, which should be a moment of reassurance, has morphed into a tribunal, a day of judgment where her most profound anxieties will be laid bare. Her fear is a living entity, and her cousin, Ches, in her attempts to be supportive, is only feeding it, her well-meaning questions feeling like prods to an open wound. The breaking point comes in the chaotic warmth of their home. Sarah and Jacob are sprawled on the sofa, engaged in the kind of idle, innocent chatter that feels like a personal attack to Charity's raw nerves. "I reckon the baby will have my nose," Jacob says with a laugh. "It's a strong gene, the Gallagher nose." "No way," Sarah retorts. "It's going to look just like its dad. They always do." The word dad strikes Charity like a physical blow. The casual, simple assumption of it all, the clear lineage, the known genetics, is a luxury she doesn't have. This embryo, this tiny flicker of life inside her, might not be the one she thinks it is. It could be a stranger, a biological ghost, a catastrophic mistake made in a lab far away. The possibility is a cancer eating away at her. "Will you two just shut up?" she snaps, her voice cracking like a whip. The room falls silent. Sarah and Jacob stare at her, their faces a mixture of shock and hurt. The cruelty of her outburst hangs in the air, thick and toxic. Later, cornered by a suspicious Ches, the facade crumbles. "I'm not going," Charity lies, her voice brittle. "They cancelled it. A problem with the machine." Chaz's eyes narrow. She knows Charity too well. She can read the lies in the frantic flicker of her cousin's eyes, in the way she won't stay still. Under gentle but firm pressure, the truth comes spilling out, a whispered, terrified confession. "The scan. It might show it's not the right one, Charles. It might show it's not my baby at all." The hospital is a place of cold, sterile fear. Charity and Chaz move through the corridors like fugitives, keeping their heads down, their conversation a series of tense, hushed whispers. Inside the ultrasound room, the world shrinks to the grainy, monochrome screen. The sonographer is all brisk, cheerful efficiency, oblivious to the life or death drama unfolding within Charity. And then, there it is. A heartbeat. A strong, Steady, rhythmic pulse that fills the room and, for a glorious second, silences the screaming panic in Charity's head. A tiny shape, a promise of life. It's perfect. It's healthy. The relief is so overwhelming it's dizzying. As Charity stares at the screen, a slow, fond smile spreads across her face. She sees not a potential mistake, but a baby. Her baby. And in that moment, Chaz feels a new, different kind of worry bloom in her chest. She sees the fierce, protective love already taking root in Charity's heart, and she knows, with a dreadful certainty, that if this is the wrong embryo, the truth will not just break Charity's heart, it will annihilate her soul. Their day, already fraught, is about to implode. As they hurry through the hospital atrium, trying to escape before they can be seen, a familiar voice cuts through the air. Charity? Chaz? They freeze. Jacob is standing there, a look of pure confusion on his face. His eyes dart from their guilty faces to the sign above the door they just exited, Maternity Antenatal Unit. Panic, cold and sharp, seizes Charity. The lie must be instant. It must be flawless. Jacob! She exclaims, forcing a breezy, casual tone that sounds shrill and false even to her own ears. Fancy seeing you here. Chaz was just. She was feeling a bit off. A dizzy spell. We thought it best to get it checked out, you know, with her history. She gestures vaguely, hoping he'll buy the flimsy explanation. But Jacob's gaze is sharp, his young mind already piecing together the inconsistencies, the secrecy, Charity's earlier outburst, their presence in this specific wing of the hospital. He saw the look on her face as they came out. It wasn't the look of someone leaving after a dizzy spell. It was something deeper, something more profound. Will he accept the lie, or will his innocent curiosity unravel a secret that is not ready to be told? The feud between Aaron Dingle and Kev has been a low, simmering fire, but now Kev is dousing it with gasoline while pretending it's water. He approaches Robert Sugden with an unnerving calm, a beatific smile that doesn't reach his cold, watchful eyes. He proclaims that he wants the fighting to end, that he wants peace. But Robert, who knows the intricate machinations of a cunning mind better than anyone, feels a chill crawl up his spine. This isn't an olive branch, it's a new, more insidious kind of weapon. He can feel the trap being set, but he can't yet see its teeth. Aaron, however, is done with games. He is a man made of fire and fury, and his patience has been burned away. He confronts Robert, his voice low and dangerous. I've had enough of his threats, Robert. Enough of him sniffing around, playing the victim. You need to sort him. You need to end it. Because if you don't, he says, stepping closer, his eyes boring into Robert's, then I will. I'll end him myself, and I mean it. The threat hangs in the air, brutal and absolute. Aaron is not bluffing. He is a cornered animal, and he will bite. Robert is caught, as he so often is, between the man his heart belongs to and the man who currently shares his life. He is a tightrope walker in a hurricane. And just as he's struggling to maintain his balance, Kev delivers his masterstroke, a move so audacious, so public, it takes Robert's breath away. In the middle of the Woolpack, with half the village as their audience, Kev raises a glass. To Robert, he announces, his voice ringing with false sincerity. To prove to him, and to all of you, that my commitment is absolute, that our love can overcome any obstacle. I want us to renew our vows. A smattering of applause breaks out. People are smiling, charmed by the romantic gesture. But Robert feels the blood drain from his face. It's a checkmate. A public declaration that forces his hand. To refuse would be to admit their relationship is a sham, to create a scene and humiliate Kev, potentially unleashing a wrath he can't predict. To agree would be to drive a stake through the heart of any hope he has of a future with Aaron. Kev smiles at him, a triumphant, possessive glint in his eye. What do you say, darling? The entire pub is watching. Aaron is watching from the corner, his face a mask of disbelief and devastation. Robert is trapped. And his answer will start a fire that could burn them all to the ground. The news that Robert has agreed to renew his vows hits Aaron like a physical blow. He hears the words, but his mind refuses to process them. It's a betrayal so profound it hollows him out, leaving nothing but a cold, aching void. He feels crushed, discarded, a fool who dared to hope. He seeks refuge in the familiar chaos of the scrapyard, the screech of twisting metal a welcome distraction from the screaming in his own head. It is Victoria who finds him there, her expression etched with a deep, sisterly concern. She has always been the barometer of her brother's heart, and she can see the storm raging within him. She watches as Robert and Kev walk through the village, Kev's arm draped possessively around Robert's shoulders, Robert wearing a smile as fragile and thin as glass. He's not happy, Aaron, she says softly, standing beside him. Look at him. Really look. Kev is beaming, but Rob. He looks like he's walking to his own execution. Later, she seeks Aaron out again, her voice firm but gentle. You can't let him do this. You can't let him throw away the one real thing in his life because he's scared. You have to be honest with him. Tell him how you feel. Everything. Before it's too late. Her words ignite the last ember of fight left in him. He finds Robert alone, the manufactured joy of the engagement party having finally dissipated, leaving Robert looking weary and lost out. The confrontation is raw, stripped of all pretense. There are no games left to play. "Don't do it, Robert," Aaron begins, his voice thick with a pain so deep it's almost physical. "Don't stand up there and make promises to him that you should be making to me." "Aaron, it's complicated." Robert starts, but Aaron cuts him off. "No. It's simple. It's him or me." He takes a step closer, his eyes locking with Robert's, demanding he see the devastation he is causing. "I'm laying all my cards on the table. I love you. But I can't do this anymore. I can't watch you be with him. I can't be your dirty little secret. So you have to choose." He pauses, letting the weight of his next words settle between them. "And if you choose him, if you go through with this wedding, that's it. There's no going back. Not ever. We are done. Do you understand me, Robert? You lose me. Forever." The ultimatum hangs in the charged air, absolute and irrevocable. Will Robert follow the suffocating path of safety and lies, or will he finally, for once, have the courage to follow his heart, even if it leads to chaos and ruin? The choice he makes now will not just define his future, but will seal the fate of them all. Paddy Kirk's worry starts as a small, niggling thing, a loose thread in the fabric of his life. His father, Bear, was supposed to be in Ireland, visiting old friends, reliving his glory days. But the calls have gone unanswered. The cheerful postcards have stopped. And now, the final, undeniable proof that something is wrong. Bear hasn't even called for his granddaughter Eve's birthday. That isn't just unusual, it's impossible. Bear adores Eve. He would move heaven and earth to hear her voice on her birthday. The niggling worry blossoms into full-blown panic. Paddy's hands tremble as he starts making calls, his heart sinking lower with each conversation. He calls Bear's old wrestling buddies, his acquaintances, the pubs he was meant to visit. The response is the same everywhere: confusion. No one has seen him. No one was expecting him. One old friend puts it bluntly, "Paddy, I haven't heard from your dad in over a year. I had no idea he was even planning a trip." The lies unravel, revealing a terrifying void. Bear wasn't in Ireland. So where in God's name is he? The why is a question that tortures Paddy, keeping him awake at night. Why would his father lie? Why would he vanish? He replays their last conversations, searching for a clue, a hint of distress he might have missed. The realization that he has no answers is chilling. The man he thought he knew has disappeared, leaving behind a ghost in a web of deceit. Struggling to hold it together, to be the calm center for his family while a storm rages inside him, he finally accepts the inevitable. This is beyond a simple misunderstanding. This is a missing person. With a heavy heart and a hand that feels leaden, he picks up the phone. I need to report a missing person," he says, his voice cracking. "It's my father. Bear Wolf." As he provides the details to the dispassionate voice on the other end of the line, the reality of the situation crashes down on him. The police will ask questions he can't answer. They will look into his father's life, and he has no idea what they might find. Should Paddy be worried about his father's welfare? The question is no longer an abstract concern. It is a terrifying, immediate reality. His father has vanished, and Paddy is utterly, terrifyingly alone in the dark. Amidst the high drama of broken hearts and missing persons, a strange and unexpected connection begins to spark. Jai Sharma is a man drowning in responsibility, the weight of his business and the complexities of caring for his son, Archie, pulling him under. He's stretched thin, exhausted, and failing on all fronts. It is Carrie Wyatt, of all people, who throws him a lifeline. She sees the desperation behind his tired eyes and takes pity on him. With a mischievous glance, she tells him he needs to get his priorities straight and promptly helps him forge a sick note, a small act of rebellion that grants him a precious, stolen day to spend with Archie. It's a moment of unexpected camaraderie, a shared conspiracy that creates a small bond between them. Later, in the cafe, Carrie overhears Jimmy and Louis gossiping about Jai, criticizing his recent performance at work. And without a second thought, she leaps to his defense, her words fierce and passionate. "You've no idea what he's going through," she snaps at them. "He's a good man, a good dad, and he's doing his best." As the words leave her mouth, she feels a jolt of surprise at her own vehemence. Since when did she become Jai Sharma's champion? The cheeky cafe owner, ever observant, watches her with a knowing look. My, Carrie," he teases. "Sounds like someone's got a little crush on the boss." The suggestion, meant as a joke, lodges in Carrie's mind and refuses to leave. She replays their recent interactions, the shared laughter over the fake sick note, the genuine gratitude in Jai's eyes, the easy way they talked. The cheeky cafe owner's words weren't a joke, they were a revelation. She does have feelings for him. The realization is both thrilling and terrifying. She seeks him out, her heart hammering against her ribs. The conversation is awkward at first, but then, emboldened by a strange new courage, she pushes forward. The question of whether he feels the same hangs unspoken between them until he admits, with a small, surprised smile, that he finds her attractive. That's all the encouragement Carrie needs. In a move that surprises them both, she closes the distance between them and launches herself at him, her lips finding his in a kiss that is impulsive, messy, and utterly electrifying. The moment is shattered by the sound of the office door opening. They spring apart, red-faced and breathless, as Dylan almost catches them in the act. They are saved by Whisker, but the danger has not passed. The next day, the ever-watchful Nicola King spots them together. She misses nothing, and the new, charged intimacy between the boss and his employee is as obvious to her as a flashing neon sign. Her eyes narrow with suspicion and delight. She can smell gossip a mile away. The secret is barely a day old, and already it's in jeopardy. Will Carrie confess the truth to the village's most notorious gossip and risk becoming the talk of the town? Or will she and Jai be forced to navigate their fledgling romance in the shadows, adding another layer of secrets to a village already fit to burst with them? The spark has been lit, and now, they must face the flame. The air in the Dingle kitchen grew thick, almost solid. The ticking of the wall clock became unnaturally loud, each second landing like a hammer blow against April's ribs. She looked at her father, Marlin, the man who had always been her safe harbor, and knew she was about to summon a hurricane into that very port. "Dad?" The word tore from her throat, a ragged, trembling sound. The tears came then, not the simple tears of a child's tantrum, but the scalding, bitter tears of accumulated shame and fear. "Dad? There's someone. Someone called Celia. She..." The sentences wouldn't form. Fragments of the truth tumbled out, chaotic and painful. With hands that shook uncontrollably, she held out her phone. Marlin's gaze shifted from his daughter's tear-ravaged face to the screen. First, there was confusion. Then, incomprehension. Then, as he scrolled, as he read the messages that began with cloying sweetness and slowly morphed into demands, commands, and veiled threats, his face transformed. The customary warmth, the gentle humor that crinkled the corners of his eyes, evaporated. It was replaced by a terrifying rigidity. His smile froze and then vanished, and deep within his eyes, a horrifying flame began to kindle. This is a devastatingly real depiction of the grooming process. It is a masterclass in psychological manipulation, where a predator doesn't begin with force, but with manufactured affection, gifts, and compliments to make the victim feel special and seen. Step by step, the groomer builds a relationship based on trust and, most importantly, secrecy. They isolate the victim from their natural support systems, creating a toxic us-against-the-world dynamic. This weaponizing of secrecy is why April found it so hard to speak up. She had been manipulated into feeling like a co-conspirator in her own abuse. Her fear was not just of the predator, but of disappointing the father she loved. Marlin placed the phone on the table as if it were a venomous snake. He didn't scream. His silence was 1,000 times more terrifying than any roar. He pulled April into his arms, a hug that was both fiercely protective and trembling with the force of the rage boiling inside him. He felt like a fool, a blind, ignorant fool. The signs had been there: his daughter's withdrawal, her jumpiness, her obsessive attachment to her phone, but he had dismissed them as teenage angst. "I'm so sorry," he whispered into her hair, his voice breaking. "I'm so sorry, my April Blossom. Dad wasn't here. I didn't protect you." But apologies were not enough. In Marlin's mind, every other thought was burned away, leaving only a single, searing objective, etched in the acid of his fury, to find out who Celia was. This was no longer a family issue to be talked through. This was a war. And Marlin Dingle, the gentle chef, the doting father, was about to show the world the unholy rage of a grizzly bear whose cub has been threatened. He would tear this world apart to find the monster who hurt his daughter. He would walk through the fires of hell itself. Charity's lighted Jacob was a pane of glass with a crack running through it. The slightest pressure would cause it to shatter. Jacob was no fool. He had seen the panicked look on their faces as they exited the maternity ward. The excuse of a dizzy spell felt hollow and rehearsed. A seed of suspicion was planted, and it began to grow, watered by his subsequent conversations with Sarah about the baby. Meanwhile, the conversation in the car between Charity and Chaz escalated into a high-stakes battle. "You're in denial, Charity," Chaz said, her knuckles white on the steering wheel. "You can't just ignore this. What if it's not your embryo? What will you do then? Raise a complete stranger's child and live a life for the rest of your life?" "It's not an embryo, Chaz," Charity snarled, her hand instinctively resting on her stomach. It's alive. I heard its heartbeat. I saw it on that screen. It's mine. I can feel that it's mine. An insight for the audience: this conflict strikes at the heart of a profound and complex issue, the power of prenatal bonding versus objective, scientific truth. From a legal and ethical standpoint, Chaz is absolutely correct. The truth, whatever it may be, must be uncovered. But from a psychological and biological perspective, Charity is experiencing a very real phenomenon. From the moment of a positive pregnancy test, a mother's body and brain begin to forge a powerful, primal connection. Hearing a heartbeat or seeing an ultrasound image triggers a hormonal and emotional tidal wave, creating a bond of unconditional love. For Charity, the baby is no longer an abstract concept or a genetic possibility, it is already a part of her child, regardless of its biological origins. This is the classic, agonizing conflict between the head and the heart. Feelings don't change facts, Charity. Chaz almost shouted. The truth has a way of coming out, whether you want it to or not. And when it does, it will destroy everything. It will destroy you, this baby, and it will destroy Mac. But Charity was too far down the path to turn back. Her initial fear had now hardened into an I am and sharp resolve. She had lost too much in her life. She would not lose this child. She turned to Chaz, her eyes blazing with a fearsome light. Then I won't give the truth a chance, she declared. No more tests. No more questions. This baby, right here, is my child. Period. And I will destroy anyone who tries to say otherwise. Chaz shuddered as she looked at her cousin. This was a Charity she didn't recognize. This was a mother lioness, willing to do anything to protect her cub, even if it meant building a castle of happiness on a foundation of lies. And Chaz knew, with a dreadful certainty, that such castles are destined to crumble. The phone call between Robert and Aaron was a steady and whispered desperation, punctuated by long, agonizing silences. He's set a date, Robert said, his voice weary and hollow. This week. Aaron, I don't know what to do. You know exactly what to do, Robert. Aaron's voice came back, cold and laced with pain. You just don't have the courage to do it. You've already made your choice. Robert hung up, a wave of hopelessness washing over him. He looked around the pristine house he shared with Kev. Everything was perfect, immaculate, and orderly. To Robert, it felt like a beautifully decorated, gilded cage. Kev entered, smiling, and handed him a cup of tea. You look tired, my love, Kev said, his voice syrupy sweet, but the hand he placed on Robert's shoulder had a weight of ownership. Don't you worry about the renewal. I've taken care of everything. All you have to do is show up and say, I do. Robert and Kev's relationship is a textbook example of coercive control, a sinister and insidious form of psychological abuse. It often lacks physical violence, which makes it harder for the victim and outsiders to identify. Instead, it is a pattern of behavior designed to strip a person of their freedom and sense of self. Kev has executed this flawlessly. He has isolated Robert from his primary support, Aaron, controls his decisions, and manufactures a perfect public image that makes it incredibly difficult for Robert to leave without looking like the villain. The public vow renewal is the ultimate manipulative masterstroke. It turns their relationship into a public performance that Robert is forced to participate in, lest he face village-wide condemnation and Kev's unpredictable wrath. Robert isn't truly choosing to stay, he is trapped by a web of pressure, fear, and emotional manipulation that makes escape feel impossible. Later that evening, as Robert sat listlessly in front of the television, Kev sat beside him and casually picked up Robert's phone. Let's see what well wishes our friends have sent, he said with a smile, but his thumb swiped with practiced speed to the recent calls list. A chill snaked down Robert's spine. He had done nothing wrong, yet he felt guilty. That was Kev's power. He had conditioned Robert to live in a constant state of anxiety, to walk on eggshells. Victoria's visit the next day was like a splash of ice water. You're living in a prison, Robert. Can't you see it? She pleaded, her voice raw with concern. He decides everything for you, monitors who you speak to, and has railroaded you into a ceremony you don't want. That's not love. That's ownership. Her words were a dagger of truth, piercing the denial Robert had wrapped around himself. He knew she was right. But knowing and acting were two different worlds. The path to freedom seemed blocked by a wall of fire. And the day of the ceremony was approaching, moving with the terrifying speed of a death sentence. Would he find one last spark of courage to save himself, or would he stand there and let Kev's fire consume what was left of his soul?